Hey everybody, it's Audrey back again with another page for the Cut Shop design team. Today I am using a cut file called Pumpkin Patch, which you can find in the Cut Shop store. And I am showing you here in Design Studio how I'm going to use this cut file. So I was afraid that this cut file, there's a lot of detail to it and I didn't want to make it too small, but I do have two photos I want to fit on this page. Two 3x4 photos. So I'm going to draw rectangles that are 3 inches by 4 inches, and this helps me. I do this all the time on my pages when I use cut files to help me gauge the exact size to cut them. I do have to take into consideration sometimes though that I like to back my photos with mats or just a couple layers of paper behind it, so that does take up a little bit more room around the photo. So I have cut out the file once I got it to the size I wanted, and I am going to go through and back it with different shades of orange paper. And what kind of orange? This is kind of a reddish orange. And I usually just glue and then trace around the paper after I've glued it on the cut file. But this time I'm going to trace the little shapes first because there are a lot of details in here, and the file itself has a lot of little tiny spaces, so I thought it was going to be tricky to cut around once it was glued. So I'm going to trace and then cut. And I'm not going to show you how I do this entire thing. I'm just going to show you this one section here. But I've cut those, or I've traced them rather, cut them out, and I'm just going to glue them in like that. So I decided to do each section a different color of shades of orange just because I thought it would be a little bit more interesting on the page and fun. Plus I have a lot of orange in my photos, so I didn't want it to be, all the same shade of orange. So this took me, this part goes pretty fast right here, but this actually took me quite a while. So you can see I've backed every section of the pumpkin. I did the stem and the leaves, and I liked how this looked, but I wasn't too thrilled with the white outline. I kind of wish I had done it in like a craft or something. So I decided to go back through and paint over all the white edges with some watercolors. So I'm just trying to mix some colors here to match the papers that I've used in the background. I'm going to do the stem and these little vines all a shade of brown. And I'm not worried when I do this about getting watercolor on the pattern paper on the background because it just kind of adds to it. So not too worried about that. But I am trying to mix the colors to match the pattern paper that I've put underneath each section. So I'm going to speed this up a lot here because it does take me a while to go through and get the right colors and paint every line. And you notice as I'm going around the letters, I am not painting the letters the same color as the background. My intention was to back the letters with a really dark color. When I look at this now, I kind of wish I left the outline of the letters white and then backed with a dark brown. I back it with a dark brown, but I kind of wish I left the letters white because I just like the way that stands out a little bit more. But I go back in and I decide to do the letters with a brown, and it is what it is. It still comes out cute, so I'm going to embrace it. Okay, so that took a while. My letters still are not backed. I'm just going to put my photos on to see how I want to arrange them. I decided to go with this background paper. This is from a really old American Crafts fall line. I don't even remember what it's called, but because I love how the frame around this page is like a little vine with some leaves, which is perfect for a pumpkin patch page. I do want to add a little bit more green to the background, so I'm going to go through with some clear gesso because I really love that seafoam color, and then I'm going to let that dry and I'll come back with some mixed media. In the meantime, I have backed my letters with some brown cardstock, and I am going to take out all the insides of the letters. So I actually left these little pieces, these little insides of like the A's and the insides of the P's and the K's and the H here, I left those inside pieces right on my cutting mat so that I wouldn't lose them, because I tend to do that. And I am going to cut those, each little inside piece out with an X-Acto knife here. And then I'm going to go back and back that whole, that little opening again with the same color pattern paper. I probably should have done this differently and backed the letters with cardstock first, and then gone through and backed each section with pattern paper. It may have been easier to do it that way, but this is the way I did it, and it still came out fine. So you can see what I mean, like the inside of the A and the word patch, I backed with red, that reddish orange to match the reddish orange in the background. Okay, so I have my photos there, and I know because this, this pumpkin is pretty intricate. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of pattern. It's big. I don't really want to add too much other embellishing to my page. I thought it would be cute to add another shade of green in here and just cut some simple leaf shapes and put those in the background. It's the same pattern paper that I have the cut file background, or the cut file backed with in the leaves of the pumpkin stem. And I just thought that the big leaves around the background of the pictures added a kind of a nice matte for the photos. And without adding too much more embellishing. I thought perhaps a couple small ones from the top, but I go away from that idea. And I spend quite a bit of time going through my stash, finding some stickers to put on, and I have a ton of Halloween things, that say spooky or ghosts or happy Halloween. I don't really have a lot of fall things, so I need to beef up my, I do have a lot, I don't know what I'm saying, but I have a lot, but I just couldn't find the right thing, I guess, for this page. I have a ton of fall stuff, but nothing that seemed to fit what I wanted. I was contemplating whether or not to put these flowers on. I kind of like the white flowers. Kind of looks cute with the green background and the orange there. And I'm just going to add a couple more stickers. Now remember, I had put some white gesso. Oh, I forgot the leaves. I decided to kind of spruce those up a little bit, so I went through and added some machine stitching, and I absolutely love what the machine stitching does for these leaves. I think it makes them so much more interesting. But it doesn't really change the color that much, but it just adds some really nice texture and some fun detail. So, like I had said, I had gessoed this background, but I haven't done any mixed media to it yet. I'm going to glue these leaves down so that I can kind of keep them in the place that I want. And then I'm going to go back through with some inks. I think I used some Distress Oxide inks. I'm going to just spray some on a piece of scrap plastic here and go through with a brush and some water and just add some on. This was really bright green. I was a little concerned that I was going too bright here, but it actually comes out really nice in the end. I'm going to water it down a little bit more, and I'll go through and blot it off with a paper towel when needed. I know that my pumpkin is going to take up, and my photos are going to take up most of the space there in the middle, so I'm just going around the edges where I think the edges of the photo and the cut file are. Do some splatters. And then I go through with this green, kind of the citron color, my favorite shade of green. And once that's dry, I'm going to go through and start adding all the rest of my elements back on. I'm going to back these photos with some of the same brown cardstock that I used to back the letters, and I'll just distress the edges a little bit, again, to just give some more texture. You can see all of my little bits on the back there from all the different patterns I had to add to the background. I considered popping that off the page, putting my photos flat and popping the pumpkin off the page, but I think I'm just going to leave everything flat. And what else do I do here? Gotta get those just right. And I'll glue those down. These little circles are, I don't know if you saw me open the package earlier, from October Afternoon. I have quite a bit of October Afternoon, their old stash. Well, they are pretty old. They haven't been around in a while, but I've hoarded a lot of their things from a lot of their different collections. This Halloween one being one of them. And then I'm going to add a couple enamel dots, and I think that is it. I go back and add my journaling and my dates and fill in some label stickers a little bit. And that's pretty much it for this page. So the majority of my time was actually spent backing that cut file. That took over an hour at least for all those little tiny pieces. But it's so worth it because it is the main element on your page. Oh, I forgot one more thing. I wanted my title to stand out a little bit more. As I had said earlier, I should have left the white background just to give that pop of white against the color, but I decided to go in with my black pen here. It's a thick pen, and I'm going to outline the insides of all of those letters just to give it a little bit more definition. And you can see how much more defined the top word pumpkin looks after I've outlined it compared to the bottom word patch. But then I went through and did the same thing to the word patch. And there is the finished page. So again, an overall pretty simple design when you consider what's just on the page. You can see all the details there in my cut file, my backing, and the stitching on my leaves, and the layering of my photos. So you can go find this cut file in the Cut Shoppe store. It's available right now, and lots of other fun fall cut files there too. And I will be back later this week with another fall layout. So thank you so much for watching, and stay scrappy, friends.